Apparently, the kids can't read. Everyone is shifting responsibility to everyone else when it is indeed everyone's fault. Every time you pretend it's not your problem, every time you skip a local election that discusses an educational budget in your district, or the election of someone to the local board of education, every time a teacher turns a blind eye to the literacy disparity because they have had a lot on their plate already, every time a parent says it's someone else's job to uphold the system because they're too busy working to provide, every administrator that sits in a boardroom and decides to further restrict their ability to create actual curriculum and do more than pass children through the school system. Every time the school principal is more worried about appearances rather than education. And everyone is so busy arguing about whose fault it is, instead of realizing it will take a culmination of these things to solve the problem. We are facing decades of a systematic decision that have left an entire generation not better off for themselves, but for the corporations that want to slowly strip them of their independence through automation. Auto recognition, auto recall is not helping the kids be thinkers. It's teaching them how to get spoon-fed the information that someone else wants them to have. Reading is important, not just for life, but for independence. And there is more to reading than recognizing words. It's the ability to comprehend, to discover, to infer. The method being pushed is the whole word or whole language method. This is when children are taught to guess words by how they look. It is a poor attempt at a shortcut that is only a time saver for the brain once the brain has actually learned to process the word in its entirety. It's also why kids can't read words they don't know and don't even know how to approach them, let alone try. Phonetics is what was taught widely prior. The idea of phonetics is the very building block behind any language in the world. As we mentioned before in our video, A Case for an Alphabet, a letter system is meaningless and downright trite without a unified recognition of the sounds it is supposed to represent. Teaching phonetics gives children the ability to sound out letter by letter and string it together to sound out a new word. It gives them the agency to discover new words anytime, anywhere. Unlike the whole word method, phonetics does not restrict them to what has merely been taught. It gives them the tools to be able to apply what they've learned anytime they need to employ it. Phonetics can also open a whole new world in languages. When coming across a new word, sounding it out leads to the pronunciation. The pronunciation can lead to the learning of the originating lexicon, or even just create an organic curiosity of what said word means. With whole word or whole language method, there is a significant gap in the pursuance of new words because there are no tools that make new words an accessible step to climb. They can become merely an obstacle in which the child waits to be solved and supplied to them by someone else, or they are forced to move around and ignore said obstacle. The kids did not fail themselves. No one can learn something they haven't been taught. They have been failed by a system that wants people to be functional, not independent. However, it's never too late. There is no shame in learning anything at any age, even if sometimes the internet feels like the world is saying otherwise. It's never too late to learn phonetics. Below, we will leave sources on the internet and to physical media for those who like the aspect of learning analog. Now, whole language learning does have its place. And it's a place that develops naturally over time after your brain learns how and when to process phonemic sounds. People naturally do not continue to sound out every word they read. The brain learns to recognize words and recall their meaning as it continues to gain practice and experience repetition. What learning phonics does is assist in figuring out new words, sometimes in new languages as well. But if we want the kids to learn how to read, we must remember that we've been here before, and it was only because people got involved and dug their heels in about it that the phonetic approach to teaching how to read became a norm for the few decades once again. It wasn't people arguing whose fault it is who discovered the problem with teaching reading through the whole language method. It was people who decided to take responsibility, to figure out the literacy problem and its root causes. Because when everyone treats a societal problem as if it's someone else's problem to fix, it quickly becomes everyone's problem.